Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here. This is Noelle. She is the community director here. Really good to be with you all tonight. Welcome. We were just having some tech difficulties. Are we live on the Facebook and YouTube, Matthew? Is that a yes? Yes, we are. So welcome to all of you. We're glad you're here joining us live or even maybe later throughout the week. We're glad you're part of this community. This is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. And what we do here is break the silence of addiction and create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. And there's always one thing we don't do, and y'all can shout it out on a count of three. If you're online, shout it out. 1, 2, 3.
We don't do shame.
We don't do shame. But Noelle is going to tell you some other things coming up that you might want to know about.
Sure. If tonight's your first night here, welcome. We're so grateful to have you here with us tonight. Get with a home team member or a staff member, and we will get you hooked up with a welcome bag. And inside this welcome bag, it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. There's some fresh roasted wagon coffee in this welcome bag and just some other free swag items. So just know that we are so grateful you're here with us. Keep coming back. We're grateful. And grab a welcome bag. Next up, tomorrow, we are going to be decorating Free for Christmas from 1 to 4 in this building. So if you're looking to get more plugged into community, get yourself in the holiday spirit, maybe just get out of your house for a few hours, come join us tomorrow from 1 to 4 and help us put up Christmas decorations and make this place look nice and spiffy.
It is guaranteed to be a good time.
Are you going to be wearing your Christmas pajamas?
Yeah, I might have to rock some Christmas pajamas. You never know.
All right. December 2nd, it's a Monday night. We are going to be doing our Advent series, but it's going to be one evening this year. So please register. It's going to be from 6 to 7. We'll be in the cafe right next door. It's going to be a potluck, so that's why it's important that you register to bring an item to share. I know Mickey and I registered. We're super excited.
What are you going to bring?
Like a charcuterie board kind of thing.
Oh.
I feel like that's easy and people can just grab and go kind of thing.
All right.
What are you going to bring?
I don't know, maybe pizza or something.
We're gonna pray
I won't
for him.
bring pizza. It'll be delicious.
We're going to pray for him. So Carrie and Ryan are leading this for us, and it's going to be a night of spiritual connection and community. So please join us if you're looking for something to do on December 2nd. Good food.
And by the way, if you're fuzzy on what Advent is, I said it last week, Advent is simply the 4 weeks leading up to Christmas. It's a time of preparation. It's a time of what we're going to use that time for is like kind of a time of quiet, like quieting the heart so that, you know, sometimes chaos comes into the holidays and
kind of the calm before the storm.
Calm before the storm.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to do.
Awesome. Great. Well, thanks for leading that for us. December 5th, so that same week, it's a Thursday night. This is super exciting. We have about 30 meetings here at Free, but we have never had a CODA meeting, so a codependency meeting. And Mitra is going to be kicking this off for us. If you guys don't know Mitra, she's incredible. It'll be in the prayer and meditation room on Thursday nights from 6 to 7. If you guys aren't familiar where the prayer and meditation room is, if you've gone to the nursery, you've gone too far. It's right next to the nursery. But that'll kick off on December 5th. So yeah, it'll be awesome to have a codependency meeting here. And then Sip and Shop, you guys know that we do this every year, usually around the holiday time. And so it's going to be on December 7th. It's a Saturday. We always do it right before service, but it'll go from 4 to 8. And local vendors come in the cafe. So we've had people bring their boutiques in, jewelry, hot sauces, all sorts of fun stuff. So if you are a small business owner or would like to showcase your business. We still have a few spots left, but they are filling up quickly. So please get with Carrie or Tammy, and we can get you registered for the Sip and Shop. And just join us. Come a little bit early to service that week. Grab a cup of coffee and just kind of walk around and grab some holiday gifts.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I can't wait.
I do have one other thing. I've got Jerome here, and then Carrie McMullen is our other model. So we have 3 brand new
Come on up here, Jerome.
Here at Free.
Online,
Look
right?
at these
Yes,
guys.
yes. We got to be in the camera view.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be shamed like last.
I know. You should have seen this guy model last service. It was a beautiful sight, actually.
So these hoodies are incredible quality. Truly they are. So we've got Jerome. He's wearing our No Shame hoodie. And on the inside of his arm, it's embroidered, "You are not damaged goods. You are God's creation." And then on the side, it has the embroidered Free logo. Ryan's wearing our F Fentanyl hoodie and No Shame on the back. We don't do shame on the back. And then on the arm, it has 107,543. And that's the number of people that lost their lives to overdose in 2023. And then we've got Carrie. She's wearing our free recovery community hoodie, and on the inside of her arm, it says, "We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free," with the free logo embroidered on this side. And then the "We Don't Do Shame" on the back. So these are $65. They're in the free cafe. They are incredible quality, and 100% of the proceeds go back to our mission here at Free, breaking the silence of addiction. We're a nonprofit here. We're not trying to make money on hoodies, but it's a great way to help our mission. So please grab one, and thank you.
And if the current gigs don't work out, Carrie and Jerome, maybe clothing models could be your thing, and
They've got another career, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All right.
Many talents. All right, thank you, Noelle. All right, y'all, the way we get started, do you want to give that to Austin and Colin? I'll tell you what you're going to do with that in just a moment. The way we get started here at Free, if it's your first time with us, we start with celebrations. We lift up the good. We start with the good. It's a very profound thing we get to do together each week in community, celebrate, and God joins with us in the celebrations. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or whatever the new thing in your life or recovery is, we celebrate it all here. So we take 3 minutes for this. If you're online, drop in your celebrations in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments. We'll join with you there. Austin has a mic on this side. Colin has a mic on this side. Just make sure you turn them on. It's just a clicker that goes up. There you go. And when they raise their hand, so you got to stand up for this, you got to bring them a mic. And we'll take 3 minutes. This time is yours.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm an alcoholic, and on Thursday I celebrated 30 days.
Way to go, Melanie.
So 32 days today.
That's a big 30 days. Glad you're here.
My name is Marjorie, and I celebrated 7 months this week.
7 months, Marjorie. Way to go.
My name's Amber, and I have 17 months clean today.
Oh, way to go, 17 months. Big stuff.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I just celebrated 11 months clean on the 13th.
All right, Robin, 11 months. Congratulations.
I'm Charlie. Today's day 388.
388, Charlie. Way to go, man.
I'm Colin. Yesterday was literally the happiest day of my life, which included 4 12-step meetings, 3 of which happened here.
All right, Colin, we'll celebrate that. Happiest day of your life. Man, that's like a...
For sure.
All right, dude. Any other celebrations in the house?
I'll go. Austin, as you know. I celebrated 9 months of sobriety this month.
All right, way to go, Austin. Proud of you, dude. Glad you're here, buddy. Anyone else? Oh, she's going to stand up for this one.
No, I'm not.
Oh.
I'm Sarah. I'm 108 days at Free.
All right.
Thank you.
We'll celebrate that, Sarah. 108 days here at Free. Congratulations.
Hi, that's loud. Hi, this is Carrie. I just wanted to thank Claire again.
Yes.
We had a member of our community provide a fantastic catered meal for us. She's in culinary school. I know her parents watch every weekend, so I just wanted to thank you for letting us borrow your daughter down here in Denver. But it was absolutely wonderful, and I just want to congratulate her and what she's doing, and her food was absolutely amazing.
It was amazing. Yes, hi, parents. Thank you for letting us borrow her. We'll celebrate that.
I'm Jerome, and I know we don't do front seats, but I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks tomorrow, so it will happen at midnight. Tomorrow marks 17 years since I got home from my first deployment to Iraq.
All right, man. Wow. Thank you for your service, Jerome.
Welcome back.
Glad you're home. Anyone else? Actually, you got 5, 4, 3. Celebrate. Thank you, Colin, and I'll take that from you. And Austin, thank you for being the best Mike pastors we've ever had. Thank you all. Tammy Canada, ladies and gentlemen, are you joining me up here for some celebration?
I am, and I'd like to mention, I see Terry Ann is watching, and she may put it in the comments, but she celebrated 17 years of sobriety. She's our cafe assistant.
Yes,
17 years
Terry
this
Ann,
week.
if you're watching, congratulations.
It's awesome.
All right, shall we join with our people? You want the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kayla says, happy to be 205 days sober.
Way to go, Kayla. So glad you're here celebrating with us. And Miranda says, celebrating my brother who is 16 days sober from alcohol. Miranda, we'll celebrate your brother. Congratulations to him. And I think that's all we have tonight. Yeah. All right, thank you,
We have
Tammy.
like matching jeans on tonight. I
Do
didn't
we?
even notice till I looked at that.
Oh, we should get a picture of the screen.
That's so cute.
Boots and
Okay.
jeans. It's almost like we live together. She texted me this morning while laying in bed. What are you wearing today, honey? Nah, she didn't really do that. All right, y'all. We're in the second week of this series called. It's a 3-week series called Mind, Body, Spirit. This is week 2, which means body. So in my high school years, when I would feel a bit stressed out or overwhelmed, I would go to my grandparents' house because their house was in between our house and my high school. So on so many mornings, I would go to their house, and it was amazing because an entire morning could just slip by, and oops, I wouldn't make it to school until about noontime. Now, so many mornings, my grandpa, whom I called Pawpaw, he had the 2 most valuable things in life. He had coffee and he had time. And on so many of those mornings, we would have our first cup of coffee, then we would make our way down to the basement where he had 2 reclining chairs. I would sit in one, he would sit in the other. He turned on the space heater, he turned on some meditation music, and then he would say, Ryan, I just want you to close your eyes and just start down at your toes and just feel your body. And I had no clue he was leading me through this 15, 20-minute meditation. I didn't have language for it then. I have it now. And he would just move all the way up the body. He'd get to the fingertips, and he would go to the top of the head and just feel your body. And when he got done leading me through that process, he would say a prayer. And at the end of his prayer, he would always ask me, how do you feel? How do you feel? And it was always amazing to me because whatever heaviness I was walking in with that morning, well, in that moment, it had a way of dissipating and something was happening in my body. And I just thought he was some sort of spiritual guru. I did not fully understand it. I just knew that it was bringing me the kind of peace that I craved. And y'all, he could have taken the time to explain to me the science of the body. He could have explained to me the facts around meditation. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure he knew those things. He was a pretty simple man. And even if he did know those things, did he also maybe know that the facts would have a way of actually pulling me out of the mystery? You know, when Tammy, my wife, when she was pregnant with all 4 of our babies, she would do this thing. We would be sitting in the living room, sitting on the couch, watching a movie, and she would take my hand and she said, quick, give me your hand. And she would take my hand and place it on her belly. And then she'd say with a grin, do you feel it? Do you feel it? Did you feel it? And the truth is, sometimes I would feel it, other times I wouldn't. But on those moments where I felt it, I mean, it was a sacred moment. Something was happening in her body. And I could spend the next 20 minutes going over with you the facts and the science behind pregnancy and how pregnancy happens, and it would all get a little awkward. I could tell you about the facts and the science about giving birth and the birthing process, and that too might get a little awkward. And somewhere along the way, when it comes to the story of our babies being in her belly, well, facts get a bit boring, don't they? You see, when I would put my hand on her belly, it had a way of allowing me to enter into the story of one of the most beautiful and profound mysteries in all of life. You see, my brothers and sisters, what do you do with those profound moments of joy and wonder and holding a newborn baby? What do you do with those profound moments of loss and grief and weeping with a mom or dad who just lost their son or daughter to addiction? What do you do with those profound moments of gratitude where it's the kind of gratitude that words can't exactly express? And the truth is, science and faith walk together. I believe that, but I also believe sometimes science falls a bit short because science gives us answers. But sometimes those answers, they merely move the mystery down a level. And y'all do know your life, it's not lived in a lab. You can't pull the whole thing apart and just study each part of your life. It's not lived in a lab. One of my favorite spiritual teachers, he said it this way. Yeah, science does an excellent job at telling me why I don't have a tail, but it can't explain why I find that interesting, and it's true, isn't it? Science does great when dealing with parts and pieces, but it doesn't exactly address the soul, does it? So for the next few minutes, let's talk about temples, because the history of temples is absolutely fascinating, and your body is absolutely fascinating. Did you know that for thousands of years, human beings have built temples, places where their gods and goddesses would dwell, places to offer sacrifices and give gifts? Now, these temples were often built on high places. Why? Because the thinking was the gods are up there somewhere, and literally the higher we get, well then maybe that will be more compelling for the gods to come and dwell in this place. Temples, they set particular spaces aside as holy and sacred. That's where you would go to meet your God. It's like the ancient people, they had this intuitive awareness that all things are connected to all other things. So temples literally set aside the space to honor and recognize all those profound moments of joy and wonder and grief and loss and gratitude. Now, here's where the problem comes in. If one space is designated as holy and sacred, well, the thinking became that other spaces then aren't holy and sacred. So as the people went about their lives, well, this space, going into the temple, that's sacred space, but when I leave the temple, it's not sacred space. So when I go into the temple, I'll conduct my life in a certain way because, of course, the divine lives here, but when I leave this place, I'll conduct myself in another way. And you can see how temples, it was all necessary, but it also divided all of life. And you can see how the form, the building, the structure, the temple actually got in the way of the divine and the human. Because it raises a very interesting question, doesn't it? Is the divine confined to time or space or a building or a box or a structure? Now hang with me because this is where it gets really interesting. In the first century world, the world of Jesus, there was a large, huge temple in Jerusalem, and this was considered the center, the very center of life. It was the institutional, structural center for government, for religion, and all other parts of life. And check out this story. Mark's Gospel, chapter 13. As Jesus was leaving the temple in Jerusalem, one of his disciples, because Jesus was a rabbi, he would have students following him, traveling with him. One of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what massive stones, what magnificent buildings," because in the temple you had buildings within buildings. And why did Jesus' students, why were they so taken back by the temple? Why did they say, "Oh my goodness, look at this thing"? Well, because you have to understand, Jesus' students, these are people who they were young people from these small, poor fishing villages. And now they're in the big city of Jerusalem, and they're looking at this beautiful temple. And keep in mind, they were raised to think spatially that God lives in that place. And you have to understand something about how the temple was built. 50-ton stones went into building the temple. First century historians tell us that 1,000 oxen dragged these stones 1 mile from the quarry to set them in place for the temple. The temple also had what's called cornerstones, Herodian stones, King Herod, Herodian stones that weren't 50 tons, they were 80 tons. It was said that King Herod had 10,000 laborers to build this thing, and it took a whopping 46 years to build the temple. If you were to go to Jerusalem today, you could stand at part of the Temple Mount, which still exists, and you could actually touch these 2,000-year-old stones. You could pray at these stones, and some people even stick prayers in these stones. But you can imagine if you're one of those first century followers of Jesus, you're one of the students, and you're looking at this massive temple, your reaction is, whoa. Now, here's how Jesus responds. Check it out. After they're mesmerized by the temple, Jesus says, "Do you see all these great buildings?" replied Jesus. "Not one stone here will be left on another. Every one will be thrown down." And that's interesting, isn't it? Because they are mesmerized by the temple, and Jesus is sitting there being critical of it. Why? I mean, Jesus says the whole thing is going to come crashing down. Why would he give us that buzzkill? Well, because you have to understand, again, fascinating history. The temple had a treasury. And to go in the temple, you had to pay a tax to the treasury. By the way, if you have to pay to get into the temple to make your sacrifices or to offer thanks, who's excluded? The poor. The poor can't get in. Now, the taxes from the temple were supposed to go to the poor. And I know this will be hard for some of you to imagine, but somewhere along the way, the temple became corrupt. This might be difficult to imagine, but over time what happened is the temple taxes didn't go to the poor, but they went to a few families to line their pockets, the ones who controlled the Temple Mount. And some of the taxes went not to the poor, but to build this huge industrial military complex to fund the wars that they found themselves in. And Jesus speaks truth to power. He marches into the temple, stands in the middle of the temple. And do you remember what he said to them? He says, "What are you guys doing? Man, you said you built this as a house for God, and instead it is not a house for God. You have become a den of robbers." And he begins to turn over the tables, the treasury tables, and he knew this was going to get him killed. And some of the religious leaders, the temple authorities, they stop and they say, whoa, 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 Rabbi, give us a sign. Give us some proof that you have any authority at all to do what you're doing. And what Rabbi Jesus says next, it absolutely turns the whole thing on its head. Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and I will raise it again in 3 days." And the people did not understand. They were saying, "You can't do that. Man, it took 46 years to build this thing, and you're just going to tear it down and rebuild it in 3 days? It doesn't make sense." They did not know that Jesus wasn't talking about a structure, a building, a temple, but he was talking about his body. And he said, "If you destroy my body, put me on that Roman execution stake. Take my life, and 3 days later, I will show you new life." It was the first time in human history a leader was saying to the people, people are sacred. It is not buildings, but people are holy and sacred. And that whole thing, it has a shelf life. It's all coming down. And see, these early Jesus followers, they picked up on this teaching. Like a group of people, they asked the Apostle Paul, this is decades after Jesus, they asked Paul, they said, "Paul, man, just make it easy on us. Just give us the religious rules. Tell us what we can do with our bodies and what we can't do with our bodies." He launches into this speech, and he ends his speech with this line, "Don't you know that your body is a temple?" And do you see how radical that thinking would have been? I mean, the people would have been saying, "Wait a minute, you mean the divine doesn't live there, but the divine dwells here in us?" I mean, radical thinking. Or how about the New Testament letter to the Ephesians? The author of Ephesians wrote a letter to the people in the ancient city of Ephesus. And he says to them, "The whole building It says early in the letter, by the way, chapter 2 of a 6-chapter letter, the whole building is joined together and rises to become a holy temple to God. And in him, you two are being built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by Spirit. And the people would have been absolutely baffled by this because Ephesus was a city that had one of the most beautiful temples built to the goddess Artemis. In fact, it was so beautiful for many years, it was considered one of the 7 wonders of the world. And they are standing with all kinds of temple beauty in the backdrop, reading this letter, being told, you are a temple. Humans are the place where the divine dwells. And see, not only is your body a temple, but the entire first half of that letter to the Ephesians, he just keeps telling them who they are. I mean, he tells them over and over, this is where the story starts. You are blessed, redeemed, forgiven, included. You are a new creation. That's where the story starts. He just keeps telling them, reminding them who they are. It's not until later in the letter, chapter 4, where he gets into some of the behavior, because I think probably he knew if you don't know who you are, you won't know how to care for the temple. And y'all be very careful with this one, because if shame is the building blocks of the temple, if shame is the thing that is filling the temple, well, your behavior, your way of living will reflect that. An act of addiction. My temple was filled with shame, and this is the temple that shame produced. 251 pounds, high blood pressure, very high cholesterol. The doctors were concerned about me. My morning hangovers were soothed with fast food drive-through, because you know we need that salt. What else filled that 251-pound temple? All kinds of fear. Man, I was so afraid of being a father. I was so afraid of screwing the whole thing up. Man, what else filled that temple? On the walls of my temple hung all those feelings of unworthiness, because I did not believe that I was worthy of love and belonging. I did not believe God would want to dwell in here. I thought God was angry and disappointed. I thought I was unworthy. What else filled the temple? Well, lots and lots of booze had to be poured into that temple so that I could escape the things that I hated about myself. And yet, that temple, God still chose to reside, to dwell in that temple. I mean, talk about grace. And the thing is, I couldn't really experience God because of all the other things that I was filling the temple with. And then recovery comes along, and it allows me, it invites me to start rebuilding the temple. But the whole thing had to shift for me, because it could not be built with stones, certainly not cornerstones of I'm not good enough and shame, and if I just follow enough right religious rules, then God's going to accept me. Man, I had to do away with all that. The rebuilding of the temple had to start with stones of you are blessed, redeemed, forgiven, included. You are a new creation. You see, the whole thing has to shift, because your body is a temple. And do you get the implications of that? That means that God is not up there somewhere, but God is right here within. That means that you are crammed with greatness and you can do hard things. That means that you can actually get clean and sober and stay clean and sober. It means that actually you can get healthy mind, body, spirit. That means that you can show up in the world not to create chaos, but to actually foster peace. That means that you can finally face all those feelings you've been running from, because if your body is a temple, then your body holds all that. And if your body is a temple, that means you are capable of creating that space to hold all of those profound things like joy and wonder and grief and loss and gratitude. Your body can feel that. Something's happening in your body and you can actually do hard things. Do you know, just this week I was meeting with my therapist, and I shared with you all last week that I started the whole weekly counseling thing, and I'm sitting across from my therapist, and we're dealing with that life story stuff, some of that lived trauma stuff, and he had me do a timeline, and I'm sitting across from him in his office, and I'm going over this timeline, and man, I was so proud of myself because I made it like almost all the way through, and I got to one part of my timeline, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but I couldn't speak because there was like a bowling ball right here. And you know what he says to me? He says, "Ooh, I think we need to do some deeper work here." And I was like, "Man, Ryan, why couldn't you just hold it together, dude? Oh, I think we're going to do some deeper work here." And he says, "Do you feel it in your body?" And I can't talk, so I'm like, "Well, where do you feel it?" And I just point like this bowling ball right here. And then he says to me, "Ryan, I want to invite you to," and y'all be very prepared for this one. If your therapist is inviting you to something, he or she is not inviting you to a dinner party. They are not inviting you to an Avs game. It means they're about to invite you to do something very difficult in your life. And he says, "Ryan, I want to invite you to write a letter to them." And do you know what my first thought was? And my first thought was, no, I ain't doing that. I ain't gonna do that. No, man, you gotta understand, I'm in recovery. I've got almost 12 years of sobriety, and I'm a 12-stepper. I've done the 12 steps. In my 12-step work, I wrote some letters. In my 9th step, I wrote a letter to my dead brother. I'm just kind of done with the letter writing thing. No more of that. And yet all week I'm meditating on these scriptures that remind me, Ryan, your body is a temple. Your body is a temple. Your body is a temple. Ryan, I reside. I dwell within you. You can do hard things because whatever you're going through, I am going with you. You are not doing it alone. I will be there. And guess what I get to do this week? Yeah, write a letter. You see, Jesus comes to announce that the divine is everywhere. The whole thing is a temple. I mean, all of it. The moments of drinking coffee. The whole thing is a temple. You are holy, sacred, and blessed, which means we have to get rid of some language, which means you are not just a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad. You are not just a mechanic or a banker or an Uber driver. You are not just an alcoholic or an addict or a divorcee or a widow. Do you see how that just language just keeps all the old temple separation alive and well? And a new thing is happening because your body is a temple, which means you are crammed with greatness because the divine dwells within you, the body. And I'll close with this. There's an ancient rabbinic tradition where the rabbis, they would keep 2 pieces of paper in their pockets. And on those days that were really difficult, where they felt beat up by the world, they felt like they weren't enough, they were battling feelings of unworthiness, well, on those days they would pull out a sheet of paper which read, "The universe was made for me." And on those days where they perhaps had a bit of a bloated ego, where they had the world by the tail, where they left humility behind, and where the world better watch out because I'm about to come in, well, on that day, they would pull out the other piece of paper in the other pocket, which read, "I come from the dust." And you all do know, to dust we shall return. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear a song together. I love this song. For those of you watching online, you should definitely click. Carrie is putting it in the comments. It's called I Am by Satsung, one of my favorite songs. And if you would like, we have these cards that read, "The universe was made for me." And the other one reads, "I come from the dust." If you would like to during the song, come up. I will be holding "I Come from the Dust" cards. Carrie will be holding "The Universe Was Made for Me" cards. Maybe you want one, or maybe you're like me and you need them both, because we each battle those in different moments. So if you'd like to come up during the song, you certainly don't have to. You can stay seated and reflect. You can do whatever you want to do, because this time is yours. But if you want a card, come get one.
yet again. Hi, friends. Welcome back. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Carrie. I'm the Associate Executive Director here. I'd like to welcome you. If this is your first time, you should know that every week we invite a guest storyteller up into the living room to share some experience, strength, and hope on the topic at hand. This week, when you find out who our guest storyteller is, you're going to know that we picked the most perfect person for this topic. She embodies not only this beautiful grace about her, but she shows up for this community in so many ways. She works at Wagon Coffee with the beautiful Tammy Canaday. She also, on Monday nights and Saturday mornings, she does yoga, sponsored by Colorado Artist in Recovery. And once you hear her story of why she does what she does, you'll understand why she's the perfect person to talk about body and coming home to ourselves and our own temples. So if you would, please help me welcome the beautiful Maggie Medrano up into the living room. And we match. Hi, friends.
Hi.
Thanks for coming back, and thanks for matching me this time.
I'm very cozy.
They're worth buying, right? They're $65. Go buy them in the cafe, and you can match Maggie and I.
And they're long.
And they're long. I want to start your story. You had mentioned when we talked earlier that you knew before you ever put substances in your body that you found a way to escape in a way that didn't require anything else, that you could check out and you could leave this world in a way that I'd like to I guess just start with so before you actually put substances in, your first addiction, and kind of talk about what that looked like and how you discovered that.
Hi. Happy to be here. From as long as I can remember, I was somebody that was just consistently living in my head. All the time, my brain was just going and going and going. I was diagnosed with ADD pretty severely, whatever that means now. But all I know is that I was living in my head all the time. And I think the best way to explain it is just completely disconnecting and disassociating from anything that I was feeling. I felt emotions and very intensely, and I just had this ability to completely just live from the neck up, and that was not an enjoyable place to be from a very young age. And I think a good way to explain that is that feeling when you are connected, of your body saying, like, this is right for me, this feels good, this person is right, this job is right, and your brain agreeing with it, kind of being aligned with that. For the most part, that's how I live today, but before I got sober and before I connected to my body, it was like my body would say, this is not right, and my brain was like, let's do it. And that was just how I lived all the time, and it was pretty miserable. And then finally found alcohol and pills and lying and stealing, and I was a cutter at one point, really young age, but just getting out of the way I felt, not being able to feel anything. So.
And obviously you were in active addiction for a little bit of time, and I wanted to fast forward to the end of I think sometimes we can skip the whole drunkalog, and yes, we know you qualify to be up here. So I think it's more important to spread the hope and of what that can do for somebody who's out there perhaps still struggling. And what I really wanted to connect with is you said you had tried 12-step recovery before, and it didn't quite stick the first go around, but then you refound it, and you had a profound experience when you were asked to connect to a higher power that was greater than you. And can you tell us the difference between your first try and then when it finally stuck and you understood, you're like, oh, that's the God thing. Can you tell us what that looked like?
Yeah, thank you. So this is why I love this series of Mind, Body, Spirit, because that was my experience with finding God or a higher power and actually having an experience with it. I grew up very intellectual, like you think about everything, you scientifically figure out, which is great. But when people would talk about hearing God or listening to God, getting messages, anything like that, I was just so confused. And when I went into a 12-step program early in my 20s, there was a lot of God talk, a lot of prayer, a lot of connection, listen to God, God's will. And it wasn't that I was defiant against it as much, it was more that I was just like, what do you mean? And so that took me out of the 12-step program for a while, and my addiction continued and got a lot worse. I went back to a 12-step program, and I just continued to ask more questions, really intellectually trying to figure out God, how do you hear him? Where is he at? Kind of what Ryan was talking about, like literally looking up in the sky, having this I needed tangible evidence. Where was he? And somebody had suggested going to a 12-step yoga class that was at the Orchard Club that I was going to. And I said, no, thank you. I don't do yoga. I don't meditate. I don't pray. But luckily, I was desperate because I was very miserable not drinking and using. That was almost as miserable as using for me at the end, was just sitting with myself without that. And so I went to the 12-step program, or the 12-step yoga, and didn't do any of the poses, but the first 3 classes at the end, she had us put our hand on our heart. And the first couple times, I was like, this is ridiculous. I think I left the first couple times. But after a while, she had this mantra of like, I love you, I'm listening. And I was saying it, but rolling my eyes, and I had this moment of saying it, and I just started bawling my eyes out. It was like Ryan had talked about last week, of that connection when you finally get from your head to your heart. And for me, it wasn't just my heart, it was like my feelings, my body, my just me, like being present. Because when you're walking around intellectually trying to figure out God, I didn't have any feeling. And so that moment that I made like the presence of my body, for me it was like I had a moment of complete body, mind, spirit connection. And it was just profound for me. And I was reading the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous after that, and it talks about the God consciousness, but I never understood that. But then it goes into like in our inner resource, tapping into our inner resource. And because of that experience with yoga, I was like, holy moly, this is it. And yeah, it was pretty powerful. And then from there, I could go and kind of find my conception a little bit deeper than just yoga.
And clearly it worked for you, but not only that, but you took it to the extent of, now I have to go help somebody else connect in this way. And there's a large part of what you do for our community is offering that beautiful gift and holding that space for people, reclaiming themselves for sometimes the first time ever. And so can you talk a little bit about what makes your yoga classes a little bit different? And I don't know, there's stereotypes all out there that yoga are like the perfect bodies and everyone's just sitting in like perfect lotus positions and they're all gorgeous. And your classes are very different. There's a wide variety. Can you talk about like who comes to your classes? What does it look like? Men, women, what does that kind of paint the picture?
Yeah, so I was working, it was kind of a cool experience. I was working a 9-to-5 job a few years ago. I was very unhappy. I was sober and doing good in that way, but I just had a feeling like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. So I started doing prayer and meditation around it, and I had a very, very strong like intuition feeling, because I had that connection to my body and out of my stinking mind, that I really wanted to combine like mental health and the body with yoga and bring yoga practices more into mental health and recovery. So then I got connected to Free and got to start doing that. So I teach a class here in this room Monday nights at 6:15 p.m. and Saturday mornings at 11:15 a.m. There are a lot of different types of yoga classes here in Denver. Most of the ones that I've tried are very fast-paced. You have to be very strong. You have to be very in shape, sometimes very mentally healthy, and I didn't relate to that. I didn't like it. A lot of people do, so it's not saying that that's not a good yoga to try, but for me, I needed to just slow down my mind, get connected to my breath and my body, and so that's what my class is really about, is just providing a safe place to get connected. I try to make it really clear that like this is an hour for you, and if you want to go through with the flow, which is really more like deep stretching and flowing a little bit, that you can, but also if you just need to like lay on your mat and kind of just have a moment for you, you're always welcome to do that too. So mine is more of like really focusing on regulating your nervous system and again, just getting connected to your body. I had no idea, I don't know about you guys, but growing up, I had no idea that every time I got angry, that energy stays in my body. It doesn't just float away. And so think about all the years, especially if you were drinking and drugging, of all the emotions, all the experiences you had, they're stored there. And it sounds like some people are having good therapists that have that somatic approach, which somatic, soma means body. So it's not just the neck up approach, which most of us are kind of used to. And so my class really allows you to have that safe, kind of calming space on your timing, not like trying to keep up with everybody, to release in different poses, release emotion, release tension, anxiety. So I enjoy it. And I do like to say that there is, like she said, there is a kind of view on yoga that it's women who are in shape. Today's class, Saturday, was like 12 or 13 grown men and 3 women. And it's usually like that. It's usually a very big variety. So I've had last Monday was an 80-year-old woman and a 17-year-old woman. Like those were the kind of space in between all the ages. So it's kind of fun.
I think it just goes to show how hard it is for a lot of us in this community just to come home to ourselves and that gentle approach. And I do want to pull back the curtain just a little bit and also bust one little myth that sometimes when you see yoga practitioners that their lives are totally in order, that she has it all figured out. Maggie does still struggle in life, and I want to kind of tap into, I know recently you've been having a past, at least I know last week was a difficult week for you, and sometimes your practice may not be as perfect as it may seem in a snapshot moment. Can you tell us today what it looks like to have acceptance and forgiveness of who you are, where you are on each particular day, and how do you allow yourself to just be gentle and accepting?
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because I don't like the idea of just because I came in connection with my body that I stay there all the time, that I never put anything bad in my body anymore, and that I do yoga and work out every day, because I 100% don't at all. Even in the good days, it's still a struggle for me with a lot of different things. Particularly this past week was just super heavy. In a way that I hadn't felt in a while, where I kind of had that feeling of like, it's too much, I don't want to feel it. But what has been cool is like the switch of being able to give myself some grace and relax a little bit when I'm kind of not treating my temple as it should be. I've been sitting around the couch, eating a bunch of chocolate. I have not been working out. But for me, it's like, okay, I do have that solution. It's not just like, oh, my body's a temple. It's like, I know that my connecting and using my body as that vessel and treating it like that really is a solution for my like serenity in sobriety. And so for me, it was like, instead of going to the gym, I'm going to try to walk down my stairs and go for a little walk in the snow. Or eat dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate. It's better for you. Just little things like that where it just feels good to not only I take care of my body in the way that I go to yoga and eat right. It's more of like, now I take care of my body in the way that when I'm not being perfect, or I'm not feeling very good about myself, I can be okay with that. And that's a good feeling.
And sometimes just being gentle with ourselves is enough. And I know in closing, first I want to say thank you for all that you do for free. Again, I know Monday nights, Saturday mornings. We do not have another Grounded Warrior retreat scheduled just yet, but I do hope we get one on.
Coming.
I know it's coming, but it's not. We get a lot of emails and requests of when it's happening. We promise we'll keep you updated. But in the meantime, to the person who's either sitting here today or watching us online and they don't know where to even begin, it just seems so daunting to come home to ourselves. It just feels so daunting. There's so much to do to clean the temple up. What piece of advice can you give someone to take today that's obtainable to come back to their own temple and start reclaiming that inner?
Well, if you're anything like me, especially at the beginning of this, I was in this place of like living in my head and avoiding anything that I was feeling here. And I knew that, but I most definitely was not ready to like come home to my body and feel all the things. So if you're at that place, just know that we're here. And there are all these cool solutions to be able to kind of slowly start to feel everything. I would always suggest, if you are not interested in coming to the yoga, there's always YouTubing, like trauma-informed yoga or breath work, anything like that. And just simply, I think the simplest way for me, I was telling them the last service that I did it in the chair because my heart was racing before I came up here last service, and my mind was going in all different ways of like, what am I going to say? And I just had this moment of like, close your eyes, find your breath, and do the body scan that Ryan was talking about has always been my go-to. Even if it's just like I only have enough time to where are my toes, like literally it's that mind-body connection. When I make my mind, where are my toes, my mind to my fingers, it's this really powerful thing to just get me in the moment right here instead of in that like, I'm not good enough, oh my God, what's gonna happen, my heart's pounding. Like breath and mind-body connection is extremely powerful, and it's you don't have to be this extravagant yoga person or eat totally healthy kind of thing. So,
thank you so much, Maggie. You're going to stick around for a little bit after if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, you can see her on, again, Monday nights at 6:15 or Saturdays at 11:15. And stay tuned for the next Grounded Warrior retreat. But can you please give a round of applause for Maggie? Thanks, you.
Thanks, guys.
Maggie, thank you for everything you offer to this community, and we continue, I've shared this with Maggie, we continue to hear such great things about your leadership here. We're always getting positive feedback for those of you that take our classes, so do check them out. Thank you for being such a bright light here. Thank you, Carrie, for having the conversation with her and twinning. That's always a plus. All right, y'all. Hey, the way we close things down here on a Saturday night, it's very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with what we call heartaches. Maybe you have been carrying a burden this week and you've been trying to carry it alone, and we love to remind you that you don't have to do that. It's why you have community. It's why you have a God who hears the cries of the people. So maybe tonight you need prayer, some encouragement, some lifting up, and you actually have a role in that. You have to put words to the thing you're carrying. You have to face it and name it. And so during this 3 minutes, you can take a microphone from Carrie, or Colin would pass around a microphone, or Austin can do it, Carrie, if you need to jump back online. Austin will have a mic on this side, Colin on this side. And again, if you're joining us online, you can put your heartaches in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments. We'll join with you there. Let's take 3 minutes.
Test one.
Hi, my name is Melanie, and I met a fellow AA friend this week, and her brother is very sick with Agent Orange, actually, and is probably not going to be making it here. He's acknowledging that he's going to be dying, and they're very, very close. And so she's been struggling with that loss that's going to be happening probably pretty soon. So if we could just keep Ronnie and her brother in our prayers, that would be great. Thank you.
Lifting up Ronnie and her brother. Thank you, Melanie.
I'm Colin. I have a friend in recovery that I met at a mental health primary residential program who is extremely suicidal, past the point where she even understands how much danger she's in.
All right, prayers for her, Colin. Lifting her up.
Hi, my name's Robin, and I just wanted to ask for prayer. I just really need God's divine guidance in my life and like almost every aspect of it. So.
All right, Robin. Prayers for you. I'm glad you're here. Yeah. Anyone else? All right.
I just want to ask for prayers for my mom today. She's usually with me, but she's under the weather.
I wondered
She's at
where your
home.
mom was. All right. Well, tell her where you said hello. We're praying for her and lifting her up, and hope to see her next week.
I would like to pray for my brother Jacob. He's 33 and his wife Phoebe, who's 31. They're both severe alcoholics, and I pray that God would bring somebody into their life to bring the message to them of recovery.
Yeah. All right, Sean. Prayers for your brother and his partner. Yeah.
I have a friend that will be reaching the anniversary of their child passing away.
Can you say that again? Hold the mic up a little bit.
I'm reaching out for prayers for a friend that will be reaching an anniversary of their son passing away.
All right. Yeah, prayers for her, and I'm glad you're there for that friend during those tender moments, so prayers for you too. Thank you, Colin and Austin. Austin, dude, you want to join me up here? Let's do this, dude.
I'll be Tammy
You
tonight.
know, the problem is she's just a little bit prettier.
We almost got
than
the
you.
same jeans too.
You know, we're matching a little bit.
I gotta stand up here so I'm a little bit taller. No, I'm just kidding.
You do you, boo. You do you. All right, you want to take the first one?
Sure thing. Kayla Weishart. Prayers for struggling with the God thing. Prayers for strength to becoming more involved with community and my emotions. Thank you for this message, Maggie.
Yeah, Kayla, lifting you up tonight. You are not alone in struggling with the God thing. We talk about that all the time here. This is a place where we can struggle and ask the questions. So glad you're with us. Christy says, prayers for our friend Christy, who lost her son last week. She is broken and struggling to find peace. Christy, glad you're joining us tonight, and prayers for your friend Christy during this a time of grief and loss, and lifting them up tonight. Thank you for mentioning them. Thank you, Austin, for being with me. I'll take that from you if you need. All right, y'all. Hey, if you have been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, we do count on your generosity here. If this is your home, your place, your tribe, your people, your community, whatever you call us, we are funded by you, the people. And I know many of you, you've made giving a spiritual practice in your life. You've made it a sacrificial practice in your life. And every week we like to say thank you, let you know how grateful we are. Really, without you, we don't exist. If you want to donate to Free, if you want to be part of giving here, there's a few different ways to do it. You can download the app, Free Recovery Community. All of our content is on there, messages, guest storytellers. There's a giving button on there. You can give one time or weekly, monthly, however you want to do it. We're grateful for all of it. You can do the same thing on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com. And for you cash and check type people, if you're still one of those, there is a giving box just beside these doors. It says giving on it, and there's a giving box just outside the other set of doors. And there is the dip jar, which is all kinds of fun to use. It's just outside these doors on the black table. You take a credit card, you dip it in, you dip it out. The machine lights up, and it brightens your day. You get to feel good about your giving. It's set at $20. You can't give more, you can't give less. It's set at $20. And thank you for being a part of that. It truly means a ton here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to give you one other piece of news before we get out of here. For some of you, you're not going to care about this at all. You're going to do one of these, la, 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 la. And others of you, you're going to think, oh my goodness, I've been waiting for this day. So we moved in here in 2021. And when we moved in here, this had a very much a 1970s vibe to it. In 30 days, we had over 250 volunteers. We did new flooring, new lights, built out a cafe. We did new paint inside and outside. It was like it was the most stressful 30 days of my life, of being here every single day. And a beautiful thing happened when all these hands came together. Now, I tell you that because one of the things that remained a bit 1970s-ish is our bathrooms. So we've been in conversation as a board of directors around this for several months, and we have landed. We are going to remodel the bathrooms. We got a general contractor coming in. He's part of this community. He's going to do fabulous work. We are remodeling the bathrooms to bring them a little up to date because y'all do know we're stewards of this place. We got to keep it up and running and up to date and keep things nice because addicts and alcoholics and loved ones, we are used to getting shoved down to church basements with no windows where it's dark and musty, and here we can actually have nice things. So don't go breaking stuff on us. We want to have and keep nice things. Now, here's the deal. I told the board we would commit to doing some fundraising on this because it is going to cost approximately $40,000. So for those of you who kind of lit up when I said new bathrooms, if that's you and you would like to donate to the bathrooms, please come talk to me after the service. Shoot me an email. We need to raise $40,000, and the work is going to begin just after Christmas. So we have a little bit of time, but not a ton of time, but we can do it. Thank you all for being a part of that. Shall we, and if you have any questions around that, you know you can ask me. Shall we go out with a prayer? All right, I would encourage you to just open up the hands. Yeah, nothing magical, but it's you using this amazing body that you have to show a sign. And maybe tonight that openness is, you're open to the idea that God is living within, dwelling within. You don't even have to invite God in because God is already here, there. So just take a big, deep breath. And if you don't know the serenity prayer, we'll pray it together. It's on your screen, and it goes like this. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Grace and peace to you. See you next time.